Hey guys, in this video we're going to be painting these cute little bluebirds. So make sure you have your paint on your plate ready to go. Don't mind my mess here. I accidentally put the wrong color on. I've got my vessel here. I've got a jar with water. You're gonna want some water in a jar. Clean out your brushes. Make sure you have, maybe an assortment of different sizes of brushes. And a paper towel to dry your brushes or to clean up any spills that may occur. So, let's get started. I'm going to do the background first, and I'm going to do it a nice light blue. So when we mix blue, it's a very strong color. We don't need a lot. I'm going to get some white over here to the side, and I'm just going to start mixing in little bits of blue at a time until I get the shade that I want. So about like that is good. It's quite light. You saw it took very little blue to make this shade of blue. And oh, you know what? One more thing before we go in with the paint. I'm going to outline my little branches with a black Sharpie. This way, when I paint the background, I can go right over top of these lines and I'll be able to see them through the paint. So, make sure you do use a black Sharpie. Has to be permanent marker, otherwise the ink from the marker is going to bleed into your paint. For some reason, the black does not. The Sharpies, I've used red before, and I think I've used a dark brown, and that was fine. The red, it did bleed through, and I've used a non-permanent black marker, and that bled through blue, and that was a mess. So just make sure this is safe. Nice, basic black Sharpie marker. Tried and true, will work just fine. Okay, so I am now gonna come in with my light blue and just fill in my whole background. Make sure that you had mixed up enough of this color that you're gonna be able to do the whole background. I might be a little shy. I'm going to just mix up a little bit more. Well, before I get too much done, a little bit of blue. Because my color won't match if I try to mix it up later, and then I'll have part of my background one shade of blue and the other part another. So I want it to be the same. So just make sure you have enough paint that's gonna last you, through the whole canvas. Just take your time, get your paint spread out nice and thin. You don't want globs. Be careful around your edges. And you can see where I painted right over that line with the Sharpie, where I did the Sharpie, and that shows through easy peasy. If your paint is really super thick and globby, you're probably not gonna be able to see it, so just make sure you do nice, thin, even coat of paint, and you'll be just fine. And if you don't have a Sharpie, and then you lose your lines, the pencil probably does show through fairly well, but in case it doesn't, these are very easy to put in by yourself without having the drawing on there. So they don't have to be exactly what I have on there for you now. So don't worry about it. You can put it on yourself. They're just little twiggies. They don't have to be anything perfect. All trees are different. All twigs are different. Just gonna flip this so I can get at it better. A little easier for me to reach. Make sure you get in these little areas in between the birds. If you want to use a smaller brush, feel free. Always use whatever you're comfortable with. The smaller brush size that you use, I will give you a little tip. It leaves behind more brush strokes just because it's smaller. So you're, making more brush strokes to fill in the space. So whenever you can use a bigger brush, use a bigger brush. Your painting will look a lot smoother. Your paint application will just look nicer. So there we go, I got it all filled in. If you want to do a second coat, feel free. Just let the first coat dry before you do the second. I'm gonna call it good, make sure I'm centered here. Ish. Centered-ish. All right, so background complete. I'm gonna start working on my little birdies. I'm gonna do the bellies first. That way, when I go around the edge with the blue, it can kind of clean up anywhere I was a little bit sloppy. And the blue is going to be able to cover the belly color easier than the belly color cover the blue. So that's why, I decided to do it in that particular order. So I'm just going to start with white paint. I'm going to get just a nice base coat of white on of each of the little bellies. Cleaning out my brush. Some white paint. And just get those bellies filled in. And it's okay if you're a little sloppy around the edge. When we do the outside color, I will clean that up. We got one belly, two belly. Just smoothing out any blobbies. Okay, so I'm going to take just the tiniest bit of blue on my dirty brush, just a tiny little bit. I might add more, but it's best to start with just a little bit. And I'm just going to create kind of like these little swoops at the bottom. Yeah, I can be a little darker. And it's just going to kind of create a little bit of a shadow. So it's real faint. I don't even know if you could see it through the video. I'm just kind of brushing up. And curving my brush strokes around the edges. And it's just a little bit of shadow. It'll make more sense later. Right now it looks kind of goofy. It could even be a little bit brighter. I mean, this is super strong. So I recommend just taking the tiniest bit to the side, kind of working it in with your dirty brush. And maybe get like a few like brighter bits. And that was just the tiniest amount. And you see how, you can really see that stand out now. Okay, so now we're gonna work on this one's gonna be a darker red orange. This one's gonna be a little bit more orangey. So, we've got a male and a female bird. Okay, so I'm gonna mix up some red orange. And to make red orange, you're just gonna mix some yellow in with red. I'm gonna come over here, I've got quite a bit of red there, and I'm gonna take quite a bit of yellow and just start slowly adding some red into it. It does not take long for that red to just overpower that yellow. You see now I could use more yellow. It's very, very bright. So comparatively, we've got this kind of orangey color. This is what we started with red. So that looks pretty good to me. So I'm gonna use my red orange and come at the top. Oh, that goes on very orange. I'm gonna add a little bit more red into that. Let's try that. It's a little better. And as I kind of work down, I'm gonna leave my brush stroke very loose. So I'm gonna have nice, good coverage at the top. And I'm just kind of letting it be wispy at the bottom. And I'm likely gonna need to do 2 coats of this because it's a little transparent. I didn't want to add white into it. If I had added white, I would have gotten better coverage and would have only needed 1 coat, but it wouldn't have been as nice and vibrant. It would have been muted a little from the white. So about like that. Maybe make it a little longer on the edges. And I'm gonna let that dry before I do a second coat. This one I want a little orangier. So basically, it's this color I had to start, and I added more red to. So I'm just gonna take a scoop of yellow over here, take a little bit of red, stir that in. I can do more red than that. It doesn't look that much different on the plate, but once I put it on, so if you look, maybe a little bit more yellow. It's very particular. I just want it to read orange. Like right now, that one's definitely red orange, and this one I want to look like very orange. So let's see. Yeah, I see a big difference there. So same thing. You're just gonna do the wispies down. So nice full coverage up here, and just leave your brush stroke kind of to stop there. Maybe a little longer on the side. Oops. And shorter on the top. So this, again, we'll need another coat. Just trying to clean up my brush strokes. That one got a little long, but I'm gonna have to be okay with it. So this one's probably dry. I'm just gonna hit it with my blow dryer real quick just to be sure. Brush cleaned out, and I'm just going to take that first color we made, that more red-orange color, and just repeat the process. Just layer on more paint to get better coverage to kind of hide the brush strokes. That looks so much better. And then again with that one. I'm gonna take a little bit of this orange, this color that I'm doing on the ladybird. I'm just gonna kind of put a little just on the very end, so it kind of gives it a gradient. It's a little bit lighter on the ends there. I like that. Okay, we got bellies complete. I'm gonna move on and do my birds. And we're gonna mix up blue. We're gonna add a little bit of red and white to some blue. I am also going to take my Sharpie. I don't know if I'm actually going to be able to see it through my color, but you never know. It might help. If not, those are very easy to put back in later. So clean it on my brush. And for my blue, I'm going to add white. So, shoot, look at my black, it's taking over my white. Since this is just blue and white, I can use this to lighten some of my blue that's on my plate. I want quite a bit of this because I have two birds, but I am going to separate half of it out and make one a little bit lighter than the other. So I'm just going to start with a nice big pile of blue. That's enough to fill in both of my birds. I'm going to add a little bit of red, and it's just going to tone it down just a little. I don't want a lot because I don't want it to turn purple. I just want to kind of give it a little deeper blue hue. So that was very subtle. I could do more. I find it's easier to add little bits at a time to get where you want to be with your color, rather than just dive in with a big old blob, stir it all in, and then have to try to fix it. So I like that. I'm going to take a scoop of that to the side, enough to fill in one of my birds. And then the rest I'm going to leave like that. So this will be my boy bird. And my girl bird I'm going to make lighter. So I just stirred in more white. And it's just slightly lighter. So you can see it's just a slight difference. It'll show better on canvas when they're side by side. So since I have girl bird color on my brush, I'm going to go in and paint her this color. Just take your time. Paint right over those eyes. And they show through nice. So no worries there. The Sharpie worked just fine. Dodge my beak a little. I need to clean my brush. I got so much down on the base. It's getting all over my hand. There we go. Probably should use a bit of a smaller brush, where it's getting real narrow, spaced on me. I'm gonna try to make do with this bigger one. Definitely gonna want to switch there on the little tiny point. Same with that one. And I'm going to come up right under this line where the branch they're sitting on sits. Get the little tail. Just going to flip, I can't really see it that well. Brush. And just get in these little tight spots. Okay, I got Mama Bird. She done. And a little touching up here and there. She look good. So Daddy Bird, I am going to use the darker blue that I made up. I'll show you here in just a second. Just get my brush cleaned out. Lost my towel. Fell on the floor. So I've got my darker blue that I made originally when I was making this. And I'm just gonna do the same thing and paint this little guy. And I think it's gonna look darker. Gosh, it's awful close. I'm gonna just stir in a little bit more blue. And just a smidge more red. There, now we're definitely darker. That's so much on my brush. I don't need that much. When it dries, it should look darker than it does right now, so I think we're good. Just take your time. Get your paint spread out nice and thin and even. I'm gonna switch to a smaller brush. Make my life a little easier here. I'm gonna put this one's head in front. So I'm just gonna, whoop. Wow. Alright, I'm gonna adjust that just a smidge. His head's a little bit lopsided there. I just wanted it to overlap onto Mama Bird's head there a little. And now he got a big old noggin. So I kind of have this body overlapping here as well. Just taking my time, getting my paint to get in all those little groovy holes from the canvas. These smaller canvases, they're a little harder when we have like more detail-y stuff, because the spaces get a lot smaller. So if this was on, you know, the big 16 by 20 size that we use in the studio, this would be a lot easier. These spaces would be easy peasy to get into with brush. Just kind of cleaning up where I've got a little streaky. And his little tail, don't want to forget that. Should probably use my bigger brush, but no, I've got my little one, so. Got a lot of paint on my brush. This one's got like a little split in the tail at the very end. Eee. Looks good to me. Oh yeah, and I like the different shades of blue. Those work nice. I'm gonna go ahead and make a lighter shade, and they're gonna have little Chickies. I'm gonna get those put in. So since I've got my boy bird, girl bird, I'm just gonna take a little bit of white, stir it into girl bird color because it's already the lightest one I have. And about like that, maybe a little bit darker. I mean, I want it to show up but not be super bright. Just get it stirred in nice. Get kind of the excess off. So here's my color. This is just getting the excess paint off my brush here. And I'm gonna, like right under where the eyes are, I'm just gonna put in little cheeks. And that could have been probably a little bit darker blue, but I think we're gonna be okay. And this one kind of is hidden a little bit behind his head that got so big. Maybe I'll just overlap. Let's just overlap. Big old puffy cheek. Got little Chickies. And let's go and work on our branches. So I'm just gonna take a little bit of black in my long skinny brush. I'm gonna dip my brush, here's my long skinny brush. I'm gonna just dip my brush in some water, stir that water into my black paint. I should do it over here. I won't get blue in it. Just to thin it out. It's easier to do like line work if your paint is a little bit thin. So I'm just stirring a little bit of water in. Just helps it flow better and hold on the brush. You don't want so much water that if you hold your plate like this and it just starts dripping. So if that's the case, just stir in more paint to your water. Just gonna come in and do all my branches. And this all dry. Sure. So there I have my branches. And next we can work on, well, since I got this black on my brush, I'm gonna go ahead and do the eyes. And they're just little swoopies right above the Chickies. That one could be a little curvier. Okay, so now we'll do all the little flowers and the leafy things. So I'm gonna make a nice bright pink. I'm gonna use my medium-sized brush. Get it cleaned out good. My black has oozed into my white. I'm just gonna try to get a nice clean spot of white here. Okay. And I'm just gonna take some red, stir it in with some of this white. So a nice bright pink. Maybe a little bit more red. This is gonna be the first layer of my flowers. My brush is a little dirty, but it's okay. I got some runaway blue here. I must have dripped some water on my plate. Is that bright enough? Maybe a little brighter. I want them real nice and bright. Just adding more red in. Good enough. I'm just gonna clean off my brush because I've got so much paint down on the base. I'm just gonna wipe it off on my towel just to get it off the base of the brush. And I'm gonna come in, reload my bristles. And let's see, how about like little 6-petal flowers? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So they're just like the width of my brush, and I like the way like you lift your brush and it leaves it a little jagged. It's kind of like when we did down here. But you could do them different if you wanted to make them like, what happened there? How'd I get white? Ah! Right. And just kind of wipe it off. It's going to get layered on top of anyway, so it's fine. But if you wanted to go in with a real small brush and just make very delicate, detailed petals, feel free. Do them however you want. I'm just doing this fast, easy version. I'm going to put one on the end of this in here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Maybe a much bigger one here. And how about some little bugs? Let's just do little bugs on the other 3 that I have left. So I'm just gonna kind of do like teardroppy shape. About like that. So I got the little buds. And I'm gonna layer on with some lighter pink. And I'll use a smaller brush. It'll be easier to leave some of that dark color showing beneath if the brush is smaller. So now I'm using this kind of small square one. And a little bit of my pink I'm gonna stir in with more white. So it's a much lighter shade. Oh, crud in my brush, that's okay. And I'm just gonna layer right on top. Make sure my thing doesn't move on me. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you see how I've left a lot of the darker pink show beneath. And using a smaller brush made that a lot easier to achieve. And then for the little buds, I'll just swoop that light pink down one side. It's for a little highlighty thing. So we got our buds, and then just some leaves, and we got all the flowery parts done. The last thing we'll have is his little beak and some little feet. So for the leaves, we're gonna make up a nice bright green. Just gonna use my small brush. And using one of the blues on your plate, I'm just gonna use this one here. This was a mama bird color. I'm gonna take just a little bit of that and start stirring in with some yellow. Until it's this nice limey green yellow color. And you don't need a lot of this. I have quite a bit here. And I need to add white. A lot of white. You get this nice light green. You need the white, otherwise the background's going to show through, so the white kind of helps block that out. Just going to clean off my brush a little. And then go in and just put little leaves. So just little leaves that just kind of come out from nowhere. How to do that? I stuck my hand in wet paint. I don't think I'm gonna be able to get that off of there. I'm gonna try. It's a damp towel, just kind of rubbing it. Much better. And just little, just wherever coming out. You can have lots or few, whatever you think. Let me get one in here. Over here needs some. And let's get some over here. Okay. And I'm going to dab a little bit of, let's do a little bit of, I'm going to just cover, I can see the branch kind of through my flower. And I just kind of want to put more focus on the center. I'm not sure really what color. Maybe just a little bit of the dark pink again. Maybe even brighten it up with a little bit more red, just so it's a little bit darker. And just kind of maybe a couple little dabs in the middle. think we really need to do anything with the buds. We're good on those. There, that looks better to me. Okay, so beak and feeties. I'm gonna use a little brush, and I've got my nice orange color over here for when I painted the mama belly. I'm gonna add just a little bit of white to that. Let me find some clean white. Just to a small area. You see? And I'm gonna paint the beaks, and I'm gonna give them little feet. So just a little bit on your brush, because those little triangles are itty bitty. Just take your time. Yeah, one little beak. And for the little feet, I'm just gonna do tiny little, like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Can't really do, it's very little paint on my brush. 1, 2, 3. They're just lines kind of stacked right together. And I believe we are done. That is super cute. I like this one. I'm gonna go ahead and sign my name. I'm gonna use my long skinny brush, have water in it. I'm gonna thin out some of this light blue and add a lot of white to it, because I want to, let's make it a little darker. I'm just gonna make it darker blue. It just shows up a little bit down on the bottom right-hand corner. I want it to be slightly darker than my background so you can see it. Let me get this up so I can write. And there we go. All done. When you guys finish up, please take pictures. I like seeing your finished work. You can just post them to my Facebook page, Willy-Nilly. I have a post pinned right at the very top. You can find it super easy. Just upload there. I can check them out. I appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed painting this cute bird painting. And I'll see you in the next video. Thanks.